Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to the Poetry of Painting. So this week I'm actually going to be showing you a pre-recorded video recorded with Lish Skec, and we did have her on the show a little while back, but unfortunately somebody had dug up the broadband, the internet in her street, meaning that it was virtually impossible to have a proper show. So I didn't want you to miss out on that because she's a lovely person and it was a fantastic chat and her poem was just wonderful. So that's why I decided that we would pre-record the show just in case of any other network issues, but it was fine. And I'd like to play that for you now. So welcome to the show, everyone. Do make comments and questions and things. I shall still be watching in and monitoring the questions and comments. So enjoy. Oh, good evening, Chris. Thanks for joining us. And I will now play the video for you without more ado. So hold on your horses, everybody. And hi Lish, how are you today?
I'm great, Fiona. How are you?
Brilliant. I'm very good too, thank you. It's great to have you back on the show, and just welcome to the show. Last time you had some rather serious internet issues caused by someone digging up your road, I think. So I thought, let's get you back on so people can actually hear you properly, hear your poem properly. And so here we are. So thanks ever so much for coming back on to do this with me.
And thank you for having me again and being so patient, because it really was, for me at this end too, a test of patience, because I would log on and I'd see you for a flash and then you would start disappearing, but I could still hear you. And I knew you couldn't hear me, and then it would crash again. But I'd get excited each time because I'd see you for a minute, and you were gone. I was like, oh, and I tried for the full half hour too, and then eventually it didn't even connect. And I was like, oh boy, what an introduction to the program.
Wasn't exactly technology's finest moment, but anyway, we're here now. We're all set. We're all ready. So so I'm really looking forward to hearing your poem again, because we just about managed to hear your poem, I think, but then that was we hardly got another word out of you after that. So I thought people deserve to really hear that properly and hear us talking about the poem and the painting afterwards. So thanks again for coming back on, and thanks everyone for watching, and hope you enjoy this one. It's without any technical hitches, fingers crossed. So would you like, I always offer my poets a chance to either read the poem first, then tell us about it, or the other way around, whichever you'd like to do, Lish. So I'll leave the choice up to you.
Okay, well, I would actually, instead of saying what the poem is about, I would like to say that what my thoughts were of your painting initially, because when I first saw it, it had such a beautiful calm and a sense of mystery. So, and for me, that calmness and that sense of mystery and that beautiful light in the sky reflected on the water was absolutely stunning and captivating. And I kind of wanted to sink into it, maybe go for a swim to that little boat. And the weirdest thing, I think, was when I looked at that, I imagined it in a hotel lobby, like by the seaside, and you on holiday somewhere and you walk into this hotel lobby and you see your painting there. So when I wrote it, that's kind of where I was. I was just sitting somewhere looking at it and wrote it out. So now I shall read a piece, and I called it Evening Reflections because it has that kind of feel to me. A boat is moored in a golden beam on the edge of a mermaid sea. Evening quiet as a whisper, a sunset streak on a grey mirror, where mystery and myth dwell under the waters, a place for sea lovers to find peace. their worries swim away with fish. Cast your line, make a wish.
Oh, it's even better hearing it a second time. Absolutely gorgeous. Thank you. It's just, I love the mermaid sea, and oh yes. And what a way to end it. Cast your line, make a wish. Beautiful. Thank you. Absolutely gorgeous.
I'm so pleased. It just had that feeling, you know, that you could make a wish and you could just
Yeah.
relax. And I love the idea of a bit of mystery under the water, but you don't necessarily need to tell it all. There is a thing where you do not need, you show, don't tell, you know. So you can have a hint of something and then leave the rest to the reader to just imagine and
Yes.
drift away with. And that's what I was hoping for, because I could have like gone off on tangents. And I noticed in the distance where the land is and where the sea meets that fine line of land, there's a spot that looks like a mosque, like with a round dome and a spire. So,
Oh.
yes, so there were several other places that I could have gone, but the thought of that tranquil sea and that boat and that sense of calm and peace was just where it sat the most for me. And I think it's a really, really beautiful painting. You know?
Thank you very much. Thank you. And I mean, I love the sea. I'd love to live by the sea. Maybe one day, maybe I will. But it's just, and I know the sea is not always calm and tranquil like this, and you know, relaxing, and it can be very powerful and very dangerous as well. But you know, in all of its guises, it's got a draw for me. You know, it pulls me. I just love being there on the beach, and you know, in all weathers really. You know, so yeah, it certainly has an attraction. I think it's something. Do you think it's something primeval, maybe, with the water, and you know, life came out of the water at the beginning? Maybe there's something still there drawing us back. Who knows?
I think you've definitely hit on something in that sense. And my husband and I, well, before we were married and we moved in together, like I suddenly realised 26 years married this year. It's like,
Oh,
really? Wow, we're
congratulations.
still happy. But the first place that we moved to when we decided to move in together was in Williamstown, which is by the sea. So you could
Oh,
walk to the beach and
oh,
every
oh,
day. And you
oh
could
my
just go
goodness.
down the road and pier and the ocean and what they called the crystals, which were beds of rocks that combed the edge of the water. And this had reminded me of a particular night there that was so peaceful and so quiet and so calm. And I remember sitting there at dusk, so relaxing and lovely.
Yeah.
And that could be a very tumultuous water and quite a rough sea, you know, when the
Mm,
are up and things as well. But when it was tranquil and calm and beautiful, it was just lovely. And you would see a boat like that just moored
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Yes, yeah.
It's
And sometimes they looked sinister, especially when it was really, really dark at night, like, and you'd walk out and it was black and you could not see the water for the sky. They just met in the one colour, and there would be an
yeah,
ocean liner there with a big lit up green and all these lights. And I actually did write a few sinister things about that one.
yeah,
Because it was very like, pull you in, swim to me, come on, I'm tempting you. But and I think there is that thing where we came from the water, you know,
mm,
and um, that's another reason we're drawn back there. And when you think about the amount of water that's in our bodies as well, and how it cleanses
absolutely.
you, and how water cleanses you, you know, there's nothing quite like a
Mm,
good swim in salt water to just bring you to life, you know. Yeah.
yes,
And I
yeah.
got all of those things from that one painting. So, you know, which is
Wow.
why it took me a little while to decide what to focus on.
Yes,
But
yeah, because if you try to put everything, all of that into one poem, it'll either be a book or it'll be so changing so quickly that people won't have time to focus on one aspect of what you were trying to tell them, I guess. So, yeah. Wow.
Overwhelming, and there have been scientific studies, here we go, about how much the human brain will actually notice when you're reading something. And it's great. You can be as complicated as you want, and you can throw in as many metaphors as you want and go off in a bajillion places. But the average person, they're going to pick their one thing, maybe two things, and that is what they're going to draw from it. So in those cases, you can read things over and always find something new, even in song. But I like the idea of focusing on the one kind of feeling and keeping it. Sometimes I just like to keep things a little bit more simple so that you can just enjoy that moment. And I hope that's what happened. I hope it's a nice kind of relaxing,
beautiful. Absolutely. And as you say, people focus on one or two things. For me, I just loved the expression mermaid sea. I just think, we think of a mermaid, and I think most of us probably think they don't really exist, sadly. But
rap. A lot of mermaids tend to have a bad rap too. Sirens, pirates to their deaths and under the deep and all that sort of thing. So I liked the idea of a beautiful, calm, nice mermaid sea. Where you're not going to fall down to your death or lured into the water or something else terrible by a stunning siren song from a manipulative fishwoman. Oh, sorry. But oh, what I mean. Yeah, but they do. There's all that mysticism and that beauty about them, but then there's that. But then there is that as
other
well,
side,
which often happens with women in general. It's kind of like, yes, therethere's this
femme fatale.
yes.
But it was just, I think with the mermaid sea, what appealed to me was, the mermaid's tail with scales and the colours shimmering, and those colours are of the sea because the mermaid is from the sea, and it was also creating more colours in my head than were in the painting sort of thing, seeing the glints of blue and green and things on the mermaid's tail infusing with the sea.
And you have those ripples in the water. If you
from the mermaid's tail.
Exactly. It's there. It's there.
So is this painting proof that mermaids exist?
Well, I think it all comes down to belief, does it not? When you think about some of the things that humans believe, and there is so much under the sea that has been documented and that we don't know about. So for all we know, maybe like hundreds of years ago, someone did actually see something that was like a mermaid, and this is where it's come from. Like, you think about Loch Ness and you think about all these other sea legends, they've all come from something that actually lived, but at that particular time they didn't have a word for it or the science to understand it or something. So for all we know, there could be. I like that idea.
Absolutely. And as you say, that we know more about the moon than we do about some of the depths of the sea.
Yes.
And the creatures that live there. I find it absolutely amazing when they take these little submarines down, which is a rather sad issue at the moment, obviously, with a submarine recently, or a submersible, I should say. But when they take these little things down so deep and it's pitch black, but they put the lights on, and so much life down there, so many creatures that look very different from what we're used to, you know, and reflect the light back in wonderful colors and shapes, and, you know, that exist under pressures that a human being couldn't tolerate even a, you know, half of that pressure. And yet these creatures are living there, and you think, well, how do they manage that? How come they're not just completely crushed, you know, under that pressure of the water? So yes, there are lots of things that we really don't understand, and maybe have never even seen yet. Still, there's probably a lot of creatures down there that nobody yet knows about, and they've not even been discovered, let alone classified or, you know, scientific studies or anything. But so yeah, you know, there's, I think with a lot of these myths and things like mermaids and sirens, that there must have been some basis for them in the first place, and it's just that we don't necessarily know what that actually was. You know, could it have been dolphins and things, you know, and because with their little clicks and noises, they can almost sound not quite human, but, you know, they sound, you know, they make sounds and things. And, you know, what if one came up under the water with seaweed?
Yes. And whale song. Whale
Yes.
song
Oh,
has such a
beautiful.
musicality. And
Yeah.
and sometimes almost a siren shriek, you know. And like, I have recordings, beautiful recordings of underwater whale songs that are just so
Yeah.
and then you
Yeah.
hear this dolphin coming like in its jet, and the whale singing over the top just so beautifully.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it could
And
be a number of things. And then when you look at science fiction things, the amount of aliens, for example, that have modeled on things from under the
yes.
ocean. Like, and I saw a documentary recently, and it showed a translucent creature that had a head that was spherical but rounded at the top, and you could see right through it, and you could see some of the organs on the inside and little silver shining things, and it was like an
Wow.
alien from a science fiction program, but not quite the same. And I'm like, some of these artists have been looking at unusual creatures under the sea for their
Yes. Yeah. Because there's a fish down there that I've seen it on television, you know, that its head is transparent. So could that, but then it depends when the science fiction was written. Was it written before they discovered this fish or afterwards? Life mirroring fiction or fiction mirroring life? Good question, that. Yeah.
And I was thinking of Philip K. Dick and Philip K. Dick's science fiction story I should know the name of. I like it so much. I've read it at least 6 times. And there's been an apocalypse, and it's just him and a dog, and everything on the planet is destroyed, and this man's crawling to the ocean. He's just going to the ocean with the dog. And it ends with him going into the sea and becoming an amoeba.
Oh.
Yes, and it was a very calm kind of thing. And that whole aspect, again, as we were saying before, of us coming from the ocean, you know. So, yes, but so instead of going to dust, this man, he finds the water, and he goes, and he's reborn in the beginning as an amoeba and starts re-evolving. And I thought, there you are. You know, I could see that in such a nice, peaceful place as you're painting. That would be a nice place to go and start to evolve again.
Indeed. Yes. In such a lovely, tranquil spot. But yeah, who knows? Who knows? And, you know, things that we've learned, you know, with dolphins, and that they use their echo sonar, whatever, and they can see if someone's pregnant, or, you know, they can see inside our bodies. You know, we can't do that. We can't detect things like that. You know, we just have our few little measly senses, which are nothing compared with some other animals, you know, like the sonar of the dolphins, or bats, you know, how they do the echolocation as they're flying around to locate their insect dinners, and where everything up is, you know, I mean, you know,
And
just because,
gliders, they do the same thing.
yeah, yeah,
And they also communicate with tapping on trees. So, and they've got like their own private Morse code.
yeah.
They've got their own code that they understand.
And also trees communicate via their roots. And people
Yes.
might think, oh, you've gone completely loopy now. But in fact, plants
Oh, no.
communicate through their roots. And if one plant is being eaten or something, it can produce chemicals which make it taste not very nice to whatever's eating it, and then they leave it alone. But it also sends signals through the roots to the other plants near it, and they start producing the same chemicals even though they haven't been attacked. And you think plants actually, I won't say talking to each other, but they're communicating. They're, you know, communicating presumably with chemicals, you know, hormones, whatever it is that they use, and they're signaling to each other, you know, there's danger, produce some of this nasty tasting stuff in your leaves so you don't get eaten.
And German scientists in the late 90s did some studies on root vegetables and discovered that they scream when you pull them out of the ground. They actually emit a sonic sound like a scream when they're
Oh,
pulled out of the ground. So I was vegetarian for years and years and years and years, and then I started craving chicken when I was pregnant with my twins, and I remember crying and eating a piece of it. It was so good. And now I occasionally have a bit of meat, but I'm mostly vegetables. And my brothers would say, "Do the vegetables scream when you pull them out of the ground?" And I saw that study, and I was like, "Well, actually, they do, because they're just as alive as everything else."
yeah, yeah. Makes you wonder about what can we eat that isn't going to scream or suffer when we.
Oh, no, they're fine. Yeah, but I just thought that was fascinating that they actually do emit this kind of a shriek when they're pulled out of the ground.
I wonder if that's similar to the plants that communicate to say, you know, there's danger, you're going to get eaten, produce nasty chemicals.
Exactly.
If it's the same thing to warn the other root vegetables near it to, you know, maybe the first one would taste better because it's come out before it can have some chemicals secreted or something, and it's warning the others, and maybe they wouldn't taste quite as good if you compared them. It's a thought. Otherwise, why, you know, why do they do it otherwise? What benefit would it have for them to admit this, some sort of scream? What benefit would that have? You know, normally things evolve for a reason, don't they? So it'd be interesting to know what effect that had on the other vegetables near it, if any. Any effect? Wow.
And I just realized, I just thought, you know, and depending, would the signal change with distance, you know, depending on how close or how far away things are.
Yeah, could make a difference, you know. And I think as humans, we need to credit other life forms, whether that's plant life, animal life, with, you know, because they've got so many different abilities from us and different ways of doing things. And you know, man isn't the top of the chain in that respect necessarily, because we, you know, our senses, you know, a bird of prey, well, even, you know, normal birds as well, their eyesight is phenomenal. A bird of prey can spot, you know, or a vulture can spot something, you know, that's died and lying on the ground a couple of miles away. You know, we're not capable of doing those sort of things.
No.
So,
And a cat has 36 muscles in each ear, which is why they can hear so many different ranges of sound, and through their feet, through their paws, you know. So they have memory in their paws, so they can return somewhere that they've been before because they remember it in their paw.
oh,
I know. that was really
And
fascinating. It explained when we moved, and our cat disappeared, and we couldn't find her for 2 or 3 days. And my brother called me and said, "Hey, Chalk, your cat's back at your old house. I've just picked her up, and you'll have to come and get her." She'd walked from our place all the way back to the old one just from
yeah.
memory, and and the cat had never been taken away from the house her entire life. So yeah, I mean, other
How did she
creatures.
do it? Yeah. And then you think of a dog's sense of smell. You know, I mean, just so superior to ours, and they can detect cancer by smell, and they know if somebody's going to have a fit. You know, not every dog, I'm sure, but there's certain dogs that, they're with people who have epilepsy or whatever, and they can tell if they're going to have an episode come on. You know, we can't be aware of that. You know, it's beyond us. So I think quite often humans need to remember to be a little bit more humble about their place in this world, and also to be a bit more caring about what they've done to this world as well. But getting on to my hobby horse there.
Oh, no, you're speaking to an active environmentalist who, in my younger years, did a lot of forest blockading and
Ah,
I caused a lot of trouble, but not in a terrible way. But I remember turning up to Gippsland to one of the forest blockades, and the local policeman there, Officer Stick, looked at me and said, "Oh no, you're here. We're going to have trouble." I was like, "Yes." I'm actually I'm quite proud of that. Yes, so and I actually did get arrested in every state in Australia for various things that I did, but I didn't do anything criminal, so it was all civil things, and then they were wiped like after a few years. And I had things like community service for what did I do? Obstructed logging operations. Nothing,
yeah.
nothing toward or nothing criminal. I was just a lot of protesting and lobbying, and getting right in front of them. Like, I had a truck driver once leap out of his truck with a metal pole and run at me. Well, I stood there in the middle of the road like this, 21 and full of bravado, and all the others ran up. And he dropped it, and we ended up actually speaking to him, and it was okay. And eventually we did have to leave when the police took us away. But that kind of destruction, I was really,
Good for
really angry
you.
about political
Yeah,
things. Cause,
yeah. Well, at least we've got a little bit of good news this week about the marine environments and carbon emissions and things. I don't think it goes quite far enough, but it's a step in the right direction, isn't it, as well? Trying to make shipping carbon neutral and so on. So it's a positive, and I think we should celebrate that, and just keep doing everything we can to try and push everything forwards in that respect as well. But I'm not sure you ought to go, and lie down in front of lorries or anything, but we don't want to lose you. We need you. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, now it's small things like lobbying politicians. And I actually did go and see a politician that I shall remain unnamed from the Liberal Party to discuss rainforests and the state of the oceans and things. And he wanted to put a price on everything. And that's the problem. Like, when I was speaking to him and he was saying, well, how much would this particular forest be worth? I said, and he actually gave me a number. And then I said, well, would you put a number on a human life? And I saw him, and he started thinking about it. And I was like, oh, see, it's not about money. The things that are happening to the planet, it's not about whether, it doesn't matter how much money we have if we've destroyed everything. And
Absolutely.
resources, you know, and if we have no resources, you can't make any more money either.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So
Yeah,
it's a matter of priorities as well, you know.
absolutely. Can't put a
And
price on the world and life. It's
no,
just not possible. And they try to, as you say, but
there was a bit.
unfortunately, what we have to do as well is to put a time on our show, unfortunately. So we're getting right to the end of our time, Lish, already. So thank you so much for coming back, Lish Skec. Hopefully I got that right this time. Skec.
You did indeed, Skeptic.
Excellent. Good. So thank you so much. Thank you everybody else for watching as well. And come back and join us for another show next week. So take care, everyone. Thanks again, Lish. Take care. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye. Bye.